Hello, my name is Claire Russell and my company is MetaLife, and what we do is to run events and workshops and seminars for people to help them get in touch with their intuition, to experience their intuitive self, their inner wisdom, their internal compass that can give them guidance in any situation at any time in their lives. And so I've already done a short video just explaining a little bit about my journey to reconnect with my intuitive self, and how I experience actually this reconnection to the intuition as part of a long journey through many different mystical schools, through science, through the works, that actually we're part of this long tradition of reconnecting with who we really are, this intuitive knowing self inside. So right now what I'd like to share with you is, how do we connect to our intuition right now? What can you do at this moment to help you become more intuitive? For you to hear that still small voice of calm inside you. For you to recognize those intuitive impulses or sensations that are talking to you. And for you to be able to pick up those little clues that we get in our life, all guiding us to listen to our intuition. So the first place to start is there's a few things which is really helpful in starting our intuitive process. A number of things we can do to create really the right environment for us to listen to our intuition. Now the first one of those is welcoming our full self to this moment. So whenever I start workshops, I often start by stating, I welcome all of who I am into this moment now. Feels good to do. Feels good to accept all of who we are into this moment. Nothing being left out, nothing excluded, but all of who we are, an invitation for our full self into this moment. Now that also helps us access our intuition, because our intuition uses all aspects of ourselves, all aspects of our experience, our lives, our relationships, everything, to guide us to understanding ourselves, to coming back to our inner compass. So when we invite all of who we are, all the emotions, all the experiences, all of our intellect, all of our hopes, all of our desires, when we invite all of that into this present moment, then we naturally increase our intuition. We naturally increase our ability to hear this voice, this essence of us speaking. So that's the first piece, welcoming all of ourselves. The second piece is being in the present moment, being still in this moment now. So there's some fantastic teachers on the power of now, whether that's Eckhart Tolle and many others, who remind us that everything only happens now, that everything that has been and will be only ever happens in this moment, in the now. And that's exactly the same with our intuition. We can do a lot of thinking, our mind can do a lot of concepts about the past and about the future, but actually intuition goes way beyond concept. When we're in concept, we're believing things. We take a belief system and we believe it. Whereas intuition is about an inner knowing. So a fantastic teacher of mine once said, yogis don't believe, they know. And it is that inner knowing which comes from being in the present moment, that comes from being very connected to ourselves right now. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to become aware of our breath. So you can do that now. You can start to just become aware of your breath, how it feels to breathe in and out of your nose. Feeling how your breath moves through your body. Perhaps feeling it on the inside of your nose. Noticing how your stomach, your belly expands as you inhale and then drops as you exhale. The breath, the prana, the life force energy is always in this present moment, always now. And it's always in a constant cycle of movement and change, yet always now. And this is the nature of who we are. and it's the nature of our intuitive self also. So that's the second piece. And then the third piece is learning to listen to our intuition. So our intuition is probably speaking to us all of the time, in many different ways. And our role is really to learn to listen to it. There's a beautiful quote by Paul Tillich that says, "The first duty of love is to listen." And that's also true with our intuitive self. So we can imagine that perhaps, a friend comes to us and they've got something really urgent they want to share with us. But if we're not present, if we're not able to be open, the feeling of love, of appreciation for that person, they're unlikely to be able to share with us. They're not going to feel that space of openness, warmth and care. And that's also true when we're looking to listen to our intuition. So we want to be opening a welcoming space for, I'm interested to hear what you have to tell me today. I'm interested to hear your guidance for me today. And we start a dialogue with our intuition, which is appreciative and open, allowing whatever might be coming forth. And that means, for a little while at least, suspending our judgments. And those judgments can be things like, I'm not intuitive, I can't do this, or, but I need to know the right answer right now. And our intuition might not want to speak to us like that. They might have many other, much more valuable things to share with us. So dropping into that space of listening, warmth, empathy, and appreciation of ourselves. That will automatically open our intuition. So you've got those three things going now. We've welcomed our whole being to this present moment, and we're willing to listen. We're willing to listen to our intuition. So you've created a really great space to hear your intuitive voice inside. And then once we've created that space, we can start to open to it. And one of the ways that I do that immediately, or initially at least, and it runs through a lot of the teaching on intuition, a lot of the classes, is becoming aware that we experience life in what I call a 360 way. So when I walk into a room, I experience that room in terms of the lights, the colours, perhaps also the sounds that might be happening of my footsteps or other people in the room. There might also be a slight smell in the air of wood, of the floor, or whatever it might be. And I might also get a feeling of that space. You get a sense of a room, whether it has a warmth or a coolness, maybe a sense of laughter, of joy, or something else. So when we experience life, we have all of our senses. All of our senses are experiencing life all at once, and it's the collective understanding of all of our senses which gives us our rich experience of life. We however tend to imagine that it's all coming from our brain, that it's all coming from our mind, that our mind is working it out for us, and that's not actually true. There's many, many different aspects of ourselves, our full sensory unit and being, which is giving information to us. So as we're going into the intuition, we start to remember those senses, and we start to explore them on a much more subtle level. So we explore things like, what is this kinesthetic sense inside of us? So perhaps you recognise that maybe you felt that gut instinct, that twinge in your stomach that's trying to tell you something. And when we go into our intuition, we can get more and more sensitive with it. So is that gut instinct telling me there's danger? Or is it telling me I'm excited about something? Or maybe slightly anxious? What is the fineness of that gut instinct? And we can go into it quite deeply in our intuition, increasing our awareness, our observation, and our subtle experience of that aspect of our intuition. The kinesthetic sense also involves our wider body consciousness. So our body, all of the cells in our body contains a lot of information and receives a lot of information. And so when we tune into those different parts of our body, we can also receive a huge amount of information on a specific situation, how we feel about something, and how we're responding to what life is bringing us. So another sense is our visionary sense. So I say visionary because we spend most of our life looking. So when I say looking, it's like, okay, so I look at this camera, I look at this chair, almost objects that I'm labelling, objects that I see as having a purpose, and that's how they are. But I'm not necessarily really seeing my reality. So when we see, we understand. When we look, we're just kind of taking in the surface nature of whatever we're looking at. So in the same way, we can go a lot deeper in our visionary sense. I often describe it like those 3D pictures, if you've seen them, they're all dots. So initially when you look at them, you can't really see anything, but actually you know there's something under there. You don't know what it is. Maybe it's a dolphin, maybe it's a star, maybe it's a castle. You have no idea. But you start to look in a different way. You relax your eyes and you start to just allow what is there to appear before you. And when you do that, you start to see this 3D image coming out of all of those dots. And that's the same way that we want to start seeing with our intuitive sense. Rather than just labelling something as it is, we start to see on a much deeper level, so we can see the people in our lives without their label of their role or who they are to us, but just understanding and seeing them. We can see our environment in the same way. And then obviously the hearing sense, I've been talking about this voice, this intuitive voice, that can be often how it comes to us. And the hearing sense is very interesting, because sound is both something we hear but also something we create. So it has this kind of receptive, giving nature, both sides. So if you, maybe a lot of writers, a lot of poets, they say that they're not actually writing the poetry, but what they're doing is listening. So they almost become the transcriber of this voice, with this creative voice which is coming through. And then that's also how we start to listen. We start to listen much more deeply. We create a space of emptiness, of unknownness, and then we see what comes forth. So we can listen in that way. We can start to inquire and have a dialogue with our intuitive self, asking open questions. And then there's obviously some other really important senses, our taste, our smell. I know many people who not only choose their food on taste of smell, but also their clothes. They walk into a shop and if it smells right, they'll buy it. And equally friendships and friends, their friends have to smell right. So all of these senses could be much, much broader than we imagine them, have much more richness and texture. And our intuitive voice can talk to us through all of them. So my suggestion to you is that maybe over the next day, just allow one of these senses to come alive in you, to be your focus of attention, and see what it tells you about your day. So as you're going about your day in different situations, etc., tune into one of those senses, perhaps an inner hearing, visionary sense, kinesthetic sense, whatever it might be, and just observe the information it gives you. And in that way, you'll be awakening that intuitive self inside you. Thank you.